food and food waste is something that has a particular meaning in most cultures. And starting from food waste is something that is very visible. It touches directly onto one of the Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations that we have just adopted as a global community. And it is really part of daily life, of everyday life. People see that. And changes in that, what I have seen in my experience is that people really respond to it because it's so visible and something that is so intrinsic part of our day-to-day life. You know, on food we depend on for life. And due to culture, nobody feels really great about throwing food. People may be careless and develop bad habits over time, but engaging them and showing that it can be done differently. And particularly, what I find very important is that any activity that is organized need to develop positive energy. If we talk about waste prevention with finger in the air and say you should not be doing that, nobody gets inspired. If we start from ourselves, if somebody tells to us, don't do that again, you don't get inspired. Maybe you get frightened, but you don't get inspired. So the point is, whatever activities university initiates, they should be as the youth themselves, you know, joyful, energetic, full of life, full of aspirations. So whatever activity, it should reflect that intrinsic characteristic of youth. One of the very convincing arguments, rather than being an argument, but just showing the facts, how much effort, how much natural resources, how much human endeavor goes from a seed to that loaf of bread, I think sows a seed of awareness. It brings a light of knowledge about what was effort of nature, how much effort of the farmer, of the people who transported all that, made the flour, and then the baker, and then the energy that baker used, and emissions, and then to come to a loaf of bread just ending up on a landfill. I can't imagine that people are completely indifferent to that kind of insight.
Food waste has been a major attention in many countries. In my country, the UK, a then government-sponsored organisation called the Waste and Resources Action Programme made big headlines 10 years ago when they published a survey in 2006 which showed that 1/3 of the food households were buying in the shops was not being eaten, but was being thrown away. And of that 1/3, which was 6.7 million tons a year, 61% they classified as avoidable food waste. So that is waste, food which we were buying, putting in the fridge, letting go past its date stamp and throwing away, or cooking too much and not eating the leftovers, and so on. And I mean, the figure is large, but when you put other things on it, I mean, that was equivalent to something like 600 euros per household per year that people were spending on food and then not bothering to eat it and throwing it away. Their methodology and approach has been now being taken worldwide. Food and Agricultural Organization published a report a couple of years ago saying that there was 1.3 billion tons of food which we grow and don't eat. Now, in the developing world, a lot of that is problems with with storage and the supply chain and wastage and so on. But in the north, it is the focus is very much on avoidable food waste. And 1.3 billion tons a year is enough food to feed all the hungry people in the world twice over. And the greenhouse gas emissions from growing that food accounts for 9% of total greenhouse gas emissions in the world. So if we didn't grow food that simply goes to waste, we would immediately save 9% of the world's emissions, which is a big number. As a country, it would place food waste third behind China and the US in terms of global greenhouse gas emissions. So food waste is a big issue. WRAP, the UK organisation I mentioned, they launched their Love Food, Hate Waste campaign 10 years ago. It's an integrated campaign. It covers the 4 E's I mentioned: engagement, communication, enabling materials, incentives, and also the 4th one is exemplify, show people how it can be done. It's been an enormously successful campaign. It is still going. Over the first 6 years, they reduced avoidable food waste by 21%. The figure that's often quoted is that a 50% reduction in food waste should be achievable through waste reduction and avoidance. It's a long-term campaign, but there's a lot of materials. There's a lot of expertise. There's a lot of materials available on the website. They have trained the trainer materials, guidelines on how to organize your own campaigns, etc., etc. Once you've gone through the avoidance, the other options for food waste are to make sure the food is eaten. So I believe in Cyprus you have charities. If waste is left over after a function, it is redistributed through charities to poorer people who and the food is actually used. The next in the level of the waste hierarchy for food, if you like, is feeding to animals, and below that is to return the food to the soil through composting. So home composting is another schemes in the UK for home composting have reduced the total quantity of municipal solid waste by between 5 and 10%. If it's composted at home, it isn't collected. You don't need to dispose of it. You're saving significant amounts of money to the local authority.